Hello, guys. This debate originally aired on the Drunken Peasants YouTube channel. That's a podcast that I participate in with my friend Ben, and I'd like all of you guys to check out that channel and subscribe to it. But this is a debate between me, Ben, my co-host, Scotty, my other co-host and brother, PaulsEgo, awesome YouTuber. Definitely subscribe to his channel if you haven't. I'll be sure to put all these links in the description. And we're debating with Brett Keane, YouTube Christian, formerly YouTube Atheist, actually the atheist that inspired me to create my YouTube channel all those years ago. Now he's a Christian. Nephilim Free, a notorious creationist moron. G-Man, sort of our lovable, unintentional comedy relief, but a nice guy. And who else? I don't know. Other people, too. Who cares? Watch the fucking debate.
Welcome to the Drunken Peasants podcast. My name is Ben. I'm here with TJ and Scotty. And we have other guests here. Brett Keane, G-Man, Adam, J-Dubs, and, of course, PaulsEgo.
And the devil.
And we'll just let everyone go down the line introducing himself. We'll let G-Man go first. Go ahead, G-Man.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm G-Man. You can find me on YouTube by going to XX0054. I have a ministry called Preaching to the Choir Ministries, and I think a lot of you are going to be entertained tonight.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brett Keane from the YouTube channel Brett Keane Hollywood. Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah. I'm some dude named Paul. What's up? They got me off the street. Yeah. Look, I hate to do this to you guys on the air and before everybody's introduced themselves, but I have a few demands if I'm going to be here tonight.
Okay, sure.
Demands.
Yeah. TJ, you're going to make a main channel video on your Amazing Atheist channel called PaulsEgo, period. Man or God, question mark. Then you're going to answer a list of about 15 or 20 really inane, nonsensical fucking questions that make no sense.
This sounds pretty logical so far.
Yeah.
These are reasonable demands, TJ.
This sounds like another video
Right.
I saw recently.
No, but yeah, my name's Paul. You know.
All right.
I like that.
Sounds reasonable, Paul. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, Adam.
Hey, my name is Adam.
Are you the Adam, like of the Garden of Eden?
I'm not the Adam of Garden of
Okay,
Eden.
I was just making sure because people used to live a lot longer then. They had like you read the Bible, it's like 970 years old.
Let him introduce himself, and then you can get it.
Okay.
Started.
So, I was talking to Brett, and he invited me to come in, so I thought I would take the opportunity to be part of this conversation. I am an atheist, but I think I share a lot of
Brett Keane's
views
values
in common with. What's that?
You share a lot of Brett Keane's views.
Well, I have some overlap with theists. Like, I tend to, certain things that theists tend to have, like objective morality, or I don't really believe that the Big Bang is a valid theory. There's some overlap there. So I think that some of the topics that come up,
Okay.
although I am an atheist, I have some overlap in there.
And J-Dubs is just here to record, right? Or is he a participant as well?
Yeah, I'm just here to, listen to the debate.
Okay.
Have some fun.
All right.
Copy that.
Okay. Cool. So G-Man, you
G-Man, I believe you wanted to perform a rap for us.
Yeah.
And we're not allowed to interrupt his
Yeah,
rap.
I'll even turn off my mic.
Not that
fine.
anyone would want to do
And just
that
tell
because
us-
it's
tell
going
us
to be a
when you're done.
masterpiece.
Oh, it's gonna be, but it's a wrap, and we are alive. So let me get this over with, okay?
Okay.
And it goes like this: Ben and TJ, show me something tonight. Don't have me going home claiming victory after this fight. I'm gonna make you stutter and trip over your clan. You will never ever survive a debate with G-Man. TJ and Ben secretly practice a form of Wiccan. I wish the two of you clowns stop running like a bunch of chickens. I know this rap just made your day. Read your Bible and do what it says.
Shouldn't it be like read your Bible and learn to pray or something like that? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It. Paul likes it.
It was an easy
That was
rhyme.
fucking awesome. That was the best thing I've heard in weeks. Oh, G-Man.
It kind of
Now,
sounded
is
like
PaulSego under the influence tonight, or is he just his regular old self?
I do like
I'm
the
just my
Wiccan
regular-
chicken thing.
yeah, but it did kind of sound like a John Cena rap, honestly.
But that's still an improvement
It was.
over the...
But Ben, can I ask you a question, Ben?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have a YouTube channel or like?
No,
who are
no,
you?
no, I don't.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
I didn't say who I was.
Oh, that joke fell flat.
You know, he just said, "Do you have a YouTube channel?" I said no, and then he's like, "It doesn't matter what your name is."
It doesn't matter.
Good try, G-Man. All right,
The
so
snare trap came up empty.
so I would say let's let Brett say what he wants to say, like, and then the people opposing his view can respond to it. How about that? How about we get it started that way?
That sounds good.
Okay.
I've got some more of those terrible, horrible questions and stuff that just don't make no sense.
It was inane.
Yeah.
Those
Here we
inane
go.
questions.
My first question is, do you believe that there is enough facts and evidence to back up the Big Bang?
Yes.
Yes.
Next.
Was I supposed to elaborate or?
Next question.
Sure. I mean, do you think that what do you think is enough facts and evidence based upon what?
Science. I mean, like, have you read a book about the Big Bang or cosmology? Like, have you read like any Stephen Hawking or Lawrence Krauss or anything like that at all?
Sure.
Okay. So what are your counter arguments against what they've said?
I just don't feel like there's enough information to base it on.
Okay.
Well, it is a theory, so
How much information exactly do you need to believe? Like what? How many books need to be written on the subject by people that are infinitely smarter than you?
What is the alternative to cosmic background radiation and the cosmic waves and shit? Like, how else did that get there? What is your alternative theory?
If you wouldn't mind, I'd like Adam to share with you on this, and we'll discuss it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Adam.
So that's an argument from ignorance, though, isn't it? Saying, well, what's the alternative?
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you're saying that you have such serious grievances with this theory, shouldn't you be able to poke some holes in it?
I can poke some holes. I think it's
Go ahead.
It's widely known to be one of the unsolved problems of science.
Why? How is it widely known?
I mean, if you go to Wikipedia and look at unsolved problems in cosmology, that's the first one that's on there. The horizon problem, the flatness problem, the singularity of the Big Bang. We need a theory of quantum gravity to explain this because the theory breaks down.
But we don't. But we don't have a theory of quantum gravity yet, though. So you can't just say,
Right,
"Oh, well,
that's why I mean-
we're ignorant about this subject, therefore we have an incomplete picture, therefore we just need to reject the entire picture." That doesn't make any sense.
I'm not claiming that. I don't think we need to reject the cosmic microwave background radiation and the.
Well, I mean, no,
recent
we're not.
discoveries.
Well, obviously we can't reject that. We have evidence that that's there presently, but how did it get there?
So you actually believe that inflation literally happened? That there's this?
It's still
inflaton
happening.
field?
do you have any scientific
No.
evidence for what you're saying, Adam?
Inflation.
Not expansion, inflation.
Inflation
You know the
is still
difference
happening.
Do you know the difference between expansion and inflation?
Well, expansion then. Expansion is still happening.
Right, but do you believe in inflation? Inflation is the part of the Big Bang Theory that doesn't make any sense.
All right. Well, explain inflation to me, and then how it differentiates from expansion.
Okay, do you know the horizon problem?
No, explain it to me.
Okay, so in the 60s, they realized that the Big Bang Theory has some serious flaws. One of them is
It's not in the Bible.
I'm an atheist, so you can't use that type of objection. But when you have a region of space have a very specific temperature, and another region of space that cannot be in causal contact with that region, that's a problem. You have to explain that. So what they did, and then there's the flatness problem of the curvature being the same way. So what they did was they came up with this idea where that the universe inflated exponentially. It's like 10 to the 30 something. It's like this insane number. In less than a second, it expanded from the size of.
Okay, yeah, I'm aware of that, but I don't understand. I've always kind of viewed that as being the same as expansion.
No.
I mean, because you have to realize that it wasn't traveling through space at the time. It was traveling through nothingness. So
yeah. Well, there is a difference between inflation and expansion, because inflation, they have to invent a scalar field. It's called the inflaton field. Mm-hmm. So they invented a particle called the inflaton, which is made of exotic matter, which can cause something the size of the Planck scale to grow in less than a second to the size of the entire observable universe.
You're basically talking about the first law of thermodynamics and how it violates it. That's basically what you're getting at, I'm assuming?
It violates everything. It violates every physical law, every principle.
Well, just
so why do all these sucker astrophysicists keep spouting all this nonsense then when you've got the real answers?
Yeah, shouldn't you be written up in Scientific in America? Because if you really have this insight into this, shouldn't you be able to go prove this objectively to other people? Say, hey, I have good news, I have evidence for this, and now I'm going to present it.
I think it's actually a lot more well-known than you guys are making it out to be. I mean, Lawrence Krauss just did an article about the recent gravitational wave findings.
You're putting words in our mouth. No one said it wasn't well-known. You just said that. I'm sorry I had to interrupt you there, but you're putting words into our mouths as far as that. We're not incredulous about this. We're just saying that we don't really know. We're not trying to say you're necessarily wrong. We're saying, can you objectively show this to us? That's what we're saying.
I can.
Okay. If you could show us
evidence...
evidence...
go to Wikipedia and look up unsolved problems in physics. Go to recent articles about the new...
prove your point.
So if I go to unsolved problems in physics, one of the problems is going to be the Big Bang doesn't exist. It's going to be this didn't happen.
The Big Bang doesn't exist.
Okay, well you were saying the Big Bang didn't happen.
The horizon problem.
I don't even
understand. It's going to say the horizon problem, the flatness problem. It's going to say the magnetic monopole problem. One of the solutions to that is inflation, but there's other solutions, and there's not valid evidence for the inflaton field.
So what is the alternate theory though?
It's an hypothesis, correct? I mean, is it being treated by scientists as a hypothesis, a theory? What is it being treated as?
In popular science, it's being treated as absolute fact. It's been proven that the Big Bang. I think TJ, you said that in one of your recent videos. They proved it because they found the waves. But I think when you look into the details of it,
it basically just sounds to me like you're saying there's some areas that we don't yet understand. There's some problems here and there. Therefore, we just need to reject this theory. But I mean,
nobody in the room has claimed that they know for an absolute fact that the Big Bang theory is the way that it worked, and that our current knowledge of the Big Bang model is what happened. Certainty.
Science is supposed to constantly revise itself,
and I don't even know why.
Knows.
Brett, what's your interest in talking about this? Because I know you're going to make some sort of theological argument towards this. So why bring an atheist in here to argue against the Big Bang? Don't really understand.
So you believe that if someone believes in a God, they have no interest in science?
No, I didn't say that.
What?
No one said that.
Where the fuck did that come from?
I mean, the reason why I got that impression was the way you guys actually responded to my questions in the particular video. You said things like I was holding you hostage. There was a real strange anxiety or paranoia there. I enjoy science. I respect science, and I'm trying to find the answers of the universe just like everybody else as well.
What the fuck are you talking about?
why are you ascribing anxiety and paranoia to us?
Yeah, you just went on a 10-sentence rant about nothing. What the fuck are you talking about? He asked you a very direct question, Brett. Why do you, as a believer, why are you interested in talking about the intricacies of the Big Bang Theory with another atheist?
What's wrong with sitting there having a conversation about the universe?
Well, we want you to get to the point.
Oh,
because
you think it's some kind of hook or gotcha question? No, I'm just asking an opinion.
Okay.
What do you think I'm going to do? God did it kind of thing? No, I'm just having a discussion with you guys. Okay. Find out where you're coming from on this position. That's it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I know the Big Bang is the prevailing model in science. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily absolutely 100% proven to be correct, because science has to constantly revise itself. I mean, at one time, the prevailing model of science was actually a geocentric universe.
That's why I was interested in having Nephilim Free on tonight. Because he was... Yeah, I saw a video where he said he was a geocentrist. I think he may have come back on that now, but I was interested in asking him about that. So it's too bad he didn't want to be on tonight.
Well, he does do his own live hangouts and everything like that. If you would like, and I see that you're online, I could throw you a link and you can come in and chat with him.
I don't know.
I think that his concern was coming on this show. It wasn't really going to be a discussion for him. He'd just get yelled at and cussed at and all that. So he was just like, eh.
Well, I mean, I understand if he can't handle the heat, but, I mean... Everyone gets yelled at in here. This is kind of the forum we have. If he really doesn't like that kind of forum, then you're right. He shouldn't be on the show.
Yeah,
it wouldn't make any sense.
All right, so
you do realize it's going to turn a lot of people off. I mean, sure, it's fun to have a sense of humor and comedy, but yelling at people and cussing them out, it's like, eh.
Well,
that's your opinion.
Do me a favor, Brett, and compare the views of the video where we yell at and cuss at you to the views of all of your recent videos, and tell me what's successful on YouTube.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm sure there's a lot of 15-year-olds that find that quite enjoyable.
Well, actually, my audience demographics represent a wide array of age ranges, but okay.
Yeah, actually, our demographic is 18 to 25, actually.
Yeah, you said...
I mean, I actually have access to demographics, Brett, so it's not like you can just pull figures out of your ass, and I won't call you on it.
Okay. It's about popularity, I understand.
Evolution argument, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, G-Man, work your magic.
Yeah, G-Man.
Do it,
and
G-Man.
I guarantee you, I know less than all of you.
Okay.
I can promise you that.
Okay.
But I do have a simple question. All of you here, I'm sorry, not all of you, the Drunken Peasants and PaulsEgo, both of you believe that evolution is true? Or you believe that it's 99.9% true?
I believe that it's the best model that we can use to explain how life originated on this planet. Yes.
Better than creation, maybe?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's test that theory here for a moment, okay?
Okay.
But before we do that, I need you to define evolution for me. What is the definition of evolution?
Evolution is...
So I know we're talking about the same thing.
Evolution is incremental change through generations that add up to larger changes over time.
May I say something real quick, G-Man, before you go into this, G-Man? Yeah. You guys said that it's a good explanation for the origin. Evolution doesn't describe the origin of life. It talks about the process and the change over gradual.
Well, it explains the biodiversity, like why there are so many different forms.
We're talking post abiogenesis.
Yeah, but it doesn't tell you how it actually.
Right, that's a totally separate theory.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, guys.
All right. So you guys buy into evolution. You believe that it's a better model to understand how life got here than that of creation, right?
Mm-hmm. Do I think that the scientific theory of evolution is a better model than God done did it? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we're all in agreement here.
Okay, PaulsEgo. All right. And we're going to test that theory in a minute, okay?
That's not a theory.
And I'm assuming you believe that it's science, right? You're calling evolution science, right?
Evolution is a scientific theory, yes.
Okay, can you do me a favor and define science for me, please?
Oh my!
Why do we always have to define every fucking term, dude?
Yeah, seriously, dude.
Like, we're not a fucking dictionary, okay?
Yeah, if
we're not. It's not our job to sit here and define words all fucking night. Let's just fucking have a discussion. We all know what fucking science means.
Question then. No problem.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
I gave you an opportunity. Can you give me some observable evidence that evolution is true? Something that doesn't require faith would be good.
Doesn't require faith. No, science does not. Science does not require faith. Do you know what science is and what the purpose of science is?
I asked you what the definition was, and you didn't want to answer it. So can you give me some observable evidence?
That's not another question answering a question. Do you know what science is?
All right.
Do you know what the scientific theory is?
They've actually seen evolution demonstrated with salamanders in California.
Yeah, I mean they've actually observed evolution in like gnats and shit too.
Yeah, fruit flies.
Okay, can
you anything?
Can you buy that?
Yeah, there was actually one species of salamander at one time that evolved into a different species that was still interbreedable with the original species, and then that species evolved into another one that was not interbreedable with the original, but still interbreedable with the second.
Also,
okay, there's a problem with that though.
Okay, do you know what bacteria is?
Definitions.
Okay, do you know what bacteria is?
Well, we're not talking about definitions. You asked for an example.
Yeah. Okay, you can go into a lab and study the generations of bacteria as they evolve to be resistant to antibiotics, which is actually a big problem in the healthcare sector right now, is that their antibiotics are basically becoming useless because the bacteria are developing a resistance.
And then there's the fact that we share like 90% of retroviral DNA with chimps, which couldn't have possibly happened unless we were once part of the same species.
Okay, let's talk about that real quick then. Let's talk about that real quick. But I don't like using the word species because there's 14 different definitions for that. I like the word kinds, if you don't mind.
No.
But if you want to
No, you don't.
No, I do mind.
We take issue with that. I'm sorry.
I take major issue with that because
but you
I know.
said there's how many different kinds of bacteria? I'm curious about this again. You said that bacteria evolved, right? What did the bacteria evolve into? I'm curious.
Bacteria of different kinds.
It evolved into bacteria.
Yes.
They made adaptations to better survive.
It just because they're both
bacteria.
Yes. Just like a pelican and a fucking stork are both birds, but they're not the same fucking species.
Yeah, pelican can't fuck a stork.
But they're still birds.
Right.
Now my question for you is this.
But they were once reptiles.
Mankind have? How many common ancestors does all life have? One, or is it more than one?
One.
Okay, so how did we get from that one to the different species that we have today?
That is what the theory of evolution explains. That is exactly what the theory of evolution explains.
Yep. Billions of years.
Yeah, what the theory of evolution explains is a dog becoming a dog and a bird becoming a bird and just becoming a different kind of a bird. But we don't never see these birds becoming something that's not a bird.
So can you explain to me why a coyote and a domesticated dog could interbreed, but a fox couldn't interbreed with a domesticated dog?
Well, I don't know about interbreeding, but
that's part of what evolution is. Because in order to evolve, you have to be able to reproduce.
Okay, but when a canine has sex with another canine, they produce another canine.
Right.
It never becomes a non.
A coyote is not a canine.
And that's the problem with that. You see, macroevolution claims that that you can go from one kind to another kind, and we don't see any proof of that. None. And I still want to see some observable evidence that shows that evolution is true, that does not require me having to use faith or taking somebody's word for it.
That's not how science works. You just don't.
We just gave you examples.
I mean, and plus, look, I mean, if you can accept that small changes can take place in short amounts of time, then you could probably accept that larger changes could happen given much larger amounts of time. I mean, they have transitional forms when reptiles started to make the transformation into birds. When reptiles started to make the transformation into mammals.
Snakes have hip joints. Yeah, snakes have hip joints. Still, to this day. Snakes
but
have hip joints.
Here's the thing. How long does it take for that to happen?
I don't know the exact number of years, but a very, very long time. For a leg to disappear in a species would take a very long time.
So that would take some faith for me to believe that then. That's not observable evidence that I can actually see with my own two eyes.
So are you saying that faith is bullshit,
now let me get to the point. You guys got on Brett Keane about not getting to the point. Let me get to the point. Okay?
Please.
I believe that God created everything after its own kind. And it makes more sense than talking about evolution, which only produces other dogs and other birds and other bacteria and other viruses. We never see them becoming anything
When did Kent Hovind get out of prison?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, every animal brings forth after its own kind. Yeah,
exactly.
That's the Kent. Yeah. Yeah, I've listened to Kent Hovind before. I've probably been.
G-Bag clearly just doesn't understand anything about anything in the realm of science. We're not here saying we're experts, but you clearly don't even understand the scientific method to be making these statements. I'm sorry, they don't make any sense.
Using the scientific method?
Yes.
Well, the problem with the scientific method is that you would have to show me something that's testable, repeatable, and I'm not going to see none of that today.
That's part of the scientific method. That's part of it.
You asked us for observable examples of evolution, and we gave you two of them with the salamanders and the flies, and you're still saying that.
No, what you gave me was adaptation. What you gave me was adaptation. You didn't give me evolution.
But G-Man, those turn into different species that can't interbreed with each other, so. that's an example of evolution.
You give me evolution, though. That's the thing, Adam.
But it's evolving into another species. They can't mate with the what it previously came from.
But in that case, it's still a dog. It's still a bird. That's why using the definition species ain't good, because there's 14 different definitions for it. With kinds, you only got one definition. So you show me.
So that's why it's better. It has less definitions, so it's better.
Hey, G-Man,
Yeah.
you show me a way for human beings to live for several billion years, and I'll show you that.
Well, I appreciate your sarcasm, but that's still doesn't answer
you're
my
not.
question.
You're never going to get it.
Can
You're
you-
never going to walk into science.
Can you give me some observable
HQ.
evidence that evolution is true
It's
without
like-
actually using faith?
What
Fossils.
faith? How is it faith?
Yeah, why
There's
do you-
evidence.
It's like
you don't need faith
This
when there's
is like
evidence.
Star Wars. We either have to be a Sith or we have to be a Jedi. There's no middle ground. There's no nuance.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Yeah, who quoted that? Who said that? Wow. Obi-Wan said that. Cool. I got you. But the fact of the matter is, you still have not shown me any observable
So
evidence that shows the evolution.
if kinds is a better definition for things, then how come animals that most people would consider of the same kind, not all of them can interbreed with one another, but some can?
Doesn't make a difference. Just as long as they stay a dog, or they stay a cat, or they stay a bird, or they
But,
stay
like,
whatever kind that were.
We know that whales used to be like a land animal and are related to hippopotamuses and shit. So,
Yep.
I mean, what is this?
Okay, I'm gonna let Brett Keane talk on that one, because he seems to be an expert on that one. He talks about that.
I didn't say I was an expert. Actually, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to ask the next question.
Yeah, I do kind of mind, because we're not done with this yet.
All right.
Oh yeah, I'm
Warren.
sorry, guys. I've never seen a dog walk around. Sorry.
No, what I want to know is...
All right,
just
so
kind of broad-
for those of you who are curious, this is the actual single definition of species. In biology, a species is one of the basic units of biological classification and a taxonomic rank. A species is often defined as the largest group of organisms capable of interbreeding and producing fertile offspring. While in many cases this definition is adequate, the difficulty of defining a species is known as the species problem. Differing measures are often used, such as similarity of DNA, morphology, or ecological niche. Presence of a species, specific locally adapted traits may further subdivide species into infraspecific taxa, such as subspecies, and in botany, other taxa, blah, blah, blah. So, what?
Don't close it.
Oh, sorry. So basically, that's the definition of species, and that was why the interbreeding thing kept being brought up during that discussion, just in case anyone was confused about why interbreeding was continuously used as a standard for when species have in fact speciated, when they can no longer reproduce with animals that were once their own kind in an observable generation.
Yeah, but my argument is still that there's still dogs, there's still cats, there's still birds, there's still bacteria, there's still viruses.
Okay.
They never change.
And what happened in evolution was that a slug became a chimp.
Well, according to
dumbass.
evolutionists, that happened over a very long period of time.
Here,
what was it, 65 billion years?
Here's
We
a
know we have no proof.
fantastic question for you, G-Man. You seem to be pretty good at being skeptical about things. Now, in this case, you're skeptical due to ignorance. I would recommend you go to a fucking natural history museum and look at some transitional fossils. But why don't you apply the same skepticism to your position, which is that God done did it?
I can do that right in front of you if you like.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Okay, go for it.
Okay,
Please
right
do.
now, please do
I know
it.
me and you just met, but I do it all the time.
Okay,
All right. In the Ten Commandments, God says, "Thou shalt not kill." Right?
sure.
Okay. Let's say you just became a Christian today, PaulsEgo. Congratulations, you're a Christian, right?
Oh,
Go to your
thank you.
Bible.
Hallelujah.
Praise the
And
Lord.
you're in Exodus chapter 20, and it says, "Thou shalt not kill." Then just a few chapters later, God tells the children of Israel to go into the land and kill all the men, women, and children in the land of Canaan.
Uh-huh.
Should I just believe that, or should I be skeptical? That's my question towards you, PaulsEgo.
Should you believe? Wait a minute. What?
He can't interpret your exegesis for you. That doesn't make any sense.
Or should I just believe it for the sake?
Why do you constantly shift the burden of proof to everyone else? He's asking you to explain your belief system.
No, the burden of proof is on me. The burden of proof is on me. I'm just asking him a question. I'm trying to think like an atheist here for a moment. Okay.
Okay.
A lot of atheists say that God will make a command: "Thou shalt not kill," and then he'll tell the
atheist
children
doesn't
of
say
Israel,
that the Bible
go
said
into the land
that.
of Canaan and kill the men, women, and children and destroy all their property.
Okay.
And don't keep none of it for themselves. Okay. Is God being a hypocrite in this situation? Yes or no? I would say,
the Bible
looking at it from a face value, I'll say yes. God is being a hypocrite. But here's the thing:
hypocrisy is a human attribute, and I have a hard time applying a human attribute to a story, like to something that clearly doesn't exist.
Well, before we get to the fact that he doesn't, your opinion that he doesn't exist, okay?
Right.
Let's examine the scriptures that I just put there, okay? In Exodus chapter 20, he tells him not to kill, and then he tells him to go in there and kill all the people in that land and whatnot, right? When you look at it from the surface, of course, God looks like a hypocrite until you actually do some study. Because when you study, you begin to see that there's a difference between wartime, which is what they were going through, wartime, and basically God giving a land that belonged to him anyway to the children of Israel. And then when you learn what they were doing in that particular land, like throwing babies in the fire, sacrificing them in volcanoes, and all those kind of things and whatnot, and God tells them to go in that land and take the land from them.
And take the women, specifically to take the young women for themselves, though.
So
don't forget that part.
So, G-Man, if you heard God, G-Man, if you heard God today to go tell you to throw a baby in the fire, would you do it?
If God told me to throw a baby in the fire, would I do it?
Yeah.
God would never ask me to do something like that.
How do you know he asked people back then, apparently?
Yeah. If God literally, because you've said, G-Man, that you know for an absolute incontrovertible fact due to your personal experience that God exists. Let's say that what you know as God to exist comes to you tomorrow and says, G-Man, throw a baby in the fire, rake it over the coals. Would you do it?
Nope. And let me tell you why I wouldn't do it, because I know that there's the devil, too, and only the devil will ask me to do something like that.
But no, God did it in the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not like it's out of his character or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when God sent the plagues to Egypt?
It was war they was talking about.
So when you're
the book of Joshua.
So let's say like you're a soldier in Iraq then, and then God tells you like throw that Iraqi baby on the fire. Would you do that?
I would be very skeptical, and I would have to test to see whether or not God is talking to me or not.
Okay,
how would that test be administered?
Well, let's give him that.
Believe every spirit that claim they're from God. I'm told to be skeptical. When Brett King came to me and told me that he was a God believer, I was skeptical.
Let's say it was God.
When they come and tell me these things.
Let's say you knew it was God.
I'm very skeptical.
There's no way that it wasn't God. You were 100% sure it was God. Would you throw the baby in the fire?
I know what my Bible says about God and the devil, and I know it's the devil asking me to do something like that. If it was God, I would know too. Because he would back it up with scripture.
But how would you know?
When the devil is asking you to do something, you know,
but how do you know it's God or the devil?
How many examples in the Bible is there of the devil telling someone to throw babies on the fire, and how many are there of God telling them to do that? That's my question.
Well, as far as I know, I don't see one occasion, and I mean one, where God is telling someone to throw a baby in the fire.
There's one in Psalms where he says, "Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones." So there's that. It's not a fire, but, you know, it's smashing babies on rocks, basically.
That was in Psalms?
Yeah.
Okay, there's two possibilities to that. And I'm not saying that either one of them is true, okay? One of them is that you're reading poetry. The other part is that God is prophesying about what's going to happen to the nation of Israel because of their idolatry, and God was going to pronounce judgment on them.
Oh, okay.
So I would have to look at the passage myself and see what you're talking about. Now, I can be skeptical, and I'd like to say something to Ben, if you guys don't mind. Ben, you said you made this recent video, you and TJ, right? And the two of you guys said, well, not the two of you. I apologize, TJ. Then you said that you want me to prove that I'm not a troll.
Yeah, prove me wrong. I believe you're a troll, and that's my personal experience, and I want you to prove my personal experience wrong. I want you to prove that you're not something.
Well, actually, I can prove I'm not a troll.
Okay.
Because when I was on your show last time, and I was being serious, and you guys were just being goofy because you was drunk, or whatever it is that you guys were doing behind the scenes, you guys are trolling me because I was asking serious questions and I was getting, you know what I mean? That's trolling. I wasn't doing that. I was being dead serious with you. I'm not a troll on YouTube. I'm deadly serious about everything I've said and everything I say on YouTube.
You know what? Out of everything that you've said, G-Man, I believe that last statement. That last statement, I think, is the truest thing. I think I gotta disagree with you, Ben. I think he's the real deal. If G-Man is a troll, then he's the best troll ever. Now, G-Man believes this shit.
Oh man,
He's the real McCoy.
Yeah.
Brett Keen's been awful silent for a while.
Yeah, Amazing Atheist. Just one more question. Then
Okay.
I'm quiet.
Okay.
Where is this? I challenged you to a debate, and I never got an answer.
Okay, yeah, I'm working on that. I am going to respond. Don't worry.
Okay.
I'm still here, guys.
Go ahead, Brett.
Oh, and the particular passage he brought up at Psalms 137, verse 9, G-Man.
Yeah, that was it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, are you guys wanting to stick on this topic for a while, or do you want to go to the next question?
You go ahead, Brett. You're running the show, buddy.
Now, I believe that you've actually done some videos on this a while back. I'm not exactly sure completely where your foundation is on this, but what is your views on abortion?
We've set a record? How many?
Oh, I just want to... Sorry for interrupting the question, but yeah, we've set a record for live viewers.
Yeah, how many do we have?
828.
Woo!
Yeah, our last one was like...
We're awesome! Okay, sorry.
Self-congratulatory bullshit. Pat yourselves on the back, everyone.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Drunken.
Okay, so abortion, right? Well, you know, I believe in the rights to an abortion. I don't necessarily think it's a good thing, but I think the alternative is worse. So, yeah, I would say that I'm pretty much pro-life, pro-choice rather. Sorry.
What do you mean the alternative, like back alley abortions or something?
Well, back alley abortions, and also just children being forced to exist in a world where their parents really might not be too keen on actually raising them, or maybe irresponsible, or they might wind up as wards of the state in substandard living conditions. I mean, I have friends that have been through the foster care system, and I know that it's pretty horrible. So,
I take it a step further than that. Even I think that the worst thing about the pro-life so-called position is trying to intercede with your morals in between a woman and her doctor. Like telling someone what they can and can't do, what kind of operations they can and can't have. That to me is the worst thing about pro-life.
Yeah, it's not based on this especially based on the medical advice. Like, okay, this might be dangerous to this person. No, because it's immoral. You should not have the abortion, even if it's a danger to yourself.
I don't know if you guys would be interested, but apparently Nephilim Free has had a change of mind. He's actually on Skype. If you'd like to bring him in the conversation,
sure, bring him on in.
All right,
I'll mute because this is gonna.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh God, let me mute.
You guys are aware of who Nephilim Free is, right?
Sort of, just vaguely.
Vaguely.
Okay. Hey Nephilim, how you doing?
Well, no, we got some right here.
This is what the show has done through their channel called the Drunken Peasants, but they do it through Skype on this one, talking to folks.
How you doing, Nephilim?
Hey guys.
He thought we were in a hangout or something.
No.
Here we are. This is where it's at.
Oh, okay.
So, Brett, you were asking us about abortion.
Yeah.
So what?
So basically, you're saying that you don't like the idea, but you'd rather have that than back alley abortions, as well as children ending up in the state.
Right.
Okay.
And then Paul added a pretty eloquent point about, it not really being the place for people to impose their morality on a woman's medical choices.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do want to let you guys know right away so you don't have anything about this. I'm not doing any hooks or gotcha questions. I'm just interested in your views and opinions. That's it. I'm not going to sit there and try to do some kind of smackdown thing on you. Adam, what is your views on abortion?
Actually, TJ, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, of course, sure. That's what we're here for, right?
A valid reason to have an abortion would be that if the parents wouldn't take care of them, or they would be put into adoption and things like that.
Well, I think that if people really truly believe that they should not be parents, then they probably shouldn't be.
Right. So, but my question is, would you have that same line of reasoning for infanticide. Like once a child is born, that it would be reasonable to kill them.
I think you have to draw the line somewhere, and I think that once a child is born, that's probably where most people would want to draw that line.
Right, but why is that? Why is there a line drawn there? Why is it?
Well, because
not okay to
because you have to
brains out
because you have to have some sort of moral standard. I mean, if you don't have that, then you could just say, well, why not kill them when they're 6 years old? Why not kill them when they're 26 years old? I mean, it establishes a bad precedent. I mean,
Right,
a fetus a fetus is inherently different than a person who's actually been brought into this world because. It's like a very early stage of development, almost like if you're going to, I could do the reverse argument on you and be like, do we have to protect every single sperm because that could potentially be a human being? Do we have to?
A human embryo can experience pain long before it gets the past, the legal cutoff time.
So can a toad if I step on it.
Okay, so then it's not a life, even though it feels.
I never said it wasn't a life.
Yeah, nobody said that.
Do you believe
cancer is life? I mean, there's lots of things that are life that we don't have any compunctions about getting rid of.
Do you believe organisms can feel pain because they're living?
Well, I think ones that have nervous systems can.
Yeah, I don't think like a clam can feel pain.
Human embryos do.
Okay, but they have a nervous system,
they feel
so
pain. Yeah, they feel pain.
Okay.
Okay.
No one's denying that.
You know what also feels pain? Children that have been born into families that are abusive or drug addicted, children that are born with horrible disfigurements and birth defects that will never allow them to live a normal life, children who are born into horrible war situations, children that are alive, children that have been born already also feel pain. Where's your compassion for those children?
I have compassion for children.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paul,
What are you suggesting I don't?
If you don't mind, Paul.
Does that justify killing them?
Paul, I've actually watched some of your videos, and I believe you've admitted to having some hard times growing up, as well as TJ. I myself had a hard time growing up.
Sure.
But I'm glad I'm alive today. I'm glad I'm sitting here having this interesting conversation.
Yeah. The fact that you're sitting here having this interesting conversation leads me to believe that you had a much better childhood than a lot of the children that I'm talking about. You had a very comfortable childhood compared to a child that's born in Ghana or a child that's born into a horrible, horrible urban situation here in America like Detroit.
So if they're going to be born into a terrible situation, does that mean confiscate and kill the kids?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Really?
round them up.
Round them up for the death camps. Okay, so
and just light it on fire.
We'll finally put those FEMA death camps to use.
And lo, the Lord said, "Go thee into Detroit and round up all the little ones and dash them against the rocks."
So are you just being snide, or I'm
what?
not?
No, I'm being completely fucking snide because it was a stupid question.
No, it's not a stupid question.
Okay, you say fetuses feel pain. When do they start? When do they start feeling pain?
By pointing out the fact that some children are born into
when do the fetuses feel
less
pain?
than desirable circumstances. So,
when in the gestation period do the fetuses feel pain?
Like you're saying that you advocate killing the children who are born into less than fortunate circumstances.
That's fantastic. I have a question for you. When do the fetuses start feeling pain? When would that happen?
So you didn't answer my question, Paula.
I'm sorry. I was trying to allow this to move on.
Yeah, I know, but
guys, wouldn't you agree?
Why don't you just answer?
No, Philip can't answer any questions himself. I asked him a question directly.
Well, I believe you were just asked a question for himself.
Atheists don't get off the hook by avoiding questions. Okay, that's
so. What question was avoided in your opinion?
Your statement alluded that you advocate the killing of children because they're born into unfortunate circumstance. I'm asking you if you support that.
No.
Okay.
No, I advocate abortion within the established law-defined time limits, and I think that is the lesser of two evils when it comes to forcing a woman to have a child that she may or may not want, or forcing a woman to have a child that may endanger her own life, or forcing a woman to have a child that may be horribly disfigured or live a horrible, painful, very
or
short
the product
existence.
of rape or incest.
Maybe.
Or the product of rape or incest. So a child that was planted in her womb without her consent.
So that you call it a child. Now you say a child. So if a child is a product of rape, then they don't deserve a life.
A child is a broad definition for one.
It's not about what the child deserves. The child is a secondary consideration. I mean, you have to think about the fucking rape victim before you think about a potential fucking person.
And all she has to carry it for the gestation period.
One child over here who is born to loving parents, and one child over here who is born to some guy raping a gal. So because this person was product of rape, that justifies murdering them?
It's not murder.
If the mother decides that she does not want to raise the child that was forcibly implanted in her womb,
you didn't have anything to do with that. You mentioned rape. I'm asking you about rape.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a woman who was forced, I do not believe a woman should be forced to have a child that she did not have an active participation in creating. I don't think a woman should be forced to have a child, period, within the established law-defined guidelines that we have here in this country governing abortion.
Well, Paul,
laws are just subjective.
They're
based on opinions.
If we go by the Bible as well, Nephilim, then we'd also say if she was single, she'd have to marry him as well. Isn't that true?
Man's law about what something, his opinion about a thing, doesn't answer whether or not it's morally correct or not correct.
Oh, give me a break.
All right.
You're like talking to a
what part of the Bible condemns abortion?
Nephilim doesn't even respond to any questions you ask him. He just goes, "You didn't respond to my question, but you didn't respond to my question." Give me a break.
That I'm asking you about abortion. Well, I'm fucking talking about abortion, you nitwit.
God. He doesn't even respond. I asked him about fetal pain. He's just like, Paul won't answer my question. Okay, you just ducked my question, but that's okay.
What question did you ask me?
I asked you specifically several times. There's no way you didn't hear me, so don't even go down that route.
I was talking at the time.
Oh,
you were trying to talk over me and ask a question.
Okay,
how would you know it? You don't even know what the time is if you didn't hear the question. So how would you know if you were talking or not?
And then you just jumped in and started talking over me. So give me a break, dude. Just give me a break. Okay, when do fetuses feel pain? When do fetuses feel pain? That's what I'm asking you. When in that gestation cycle?
I don't know, but I have been
told
that it's long before the legal time in which the law says that you cannot promote.
You went there, Scotty. You went there.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, let me ask you this question. Let's say it's 20 weeks, just for the sake of argument. Okay, it's 20 weeks in. Now, if the woman has an abortion before then, the fetus is not feeling the pain, correct?
That's true.
Okay, so then it's okay.
There is a point at which it seems that the embryo does not feel pain.
Okay.
Or doesn't respond to it in a human manner. Like, ouch, I don't like that.
It's basically its brain is not able to receive the signals for pain because its brain is not fully developed. Do you think?
You look at it
at that point, do you think if that child was to be born at that moment, you're saying a child, we're saying basically the fetus, could it live on its own independently?
No, and neither can you until you're about 16 or 18 years old either.
That's not true.
Most people in modern society are not going to survive.
No, we're talking about simply being alive. We're not talking about the practicality of actually surviving.
Survival.
Yeah, survival, but we're talking about being alive. That's the nuance you're using. You're saying being alive.
Well,
or not being alive.
Survival is being alive.
No. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying
that is true.
You're saying survival is only when you're alive. So if someone is shot and bleeding, and they're no longer able to survive, they're no longer alive.
No, your point you're making a straw man out of it. The point is the child is not able to support themselves.
Quit straw manning him, Scotty.
The child is not able to support themselves without a parental help or some adult help.
Okay, so. It's dependent on so they're not alive then. So if the parents die in a car accident, they're no longer alive.
They will not survive without assistance.
Of course they won't. But that's besides the point. That's saying when the child is actually born. After the child is born, sure.
The embryo survive.
Yeah, the embryo would not survive if it was born at that point. That's the argument we're making. We're not saying a child is then born. and is then there, and then we'll say, let's kill it. No one here is saying that, and that's what you're trying to say. That's what we're
I'm
saying.
not pointing to the cause of death. I'm not, I'm not saying when it will die. I'm saying it requires supervision and support to survive.
Well, everyone knows that.
outside.
No one's disputing
Every
that.
human being,
Inside
every
and
human
out.
being. Oh my God.
Paul, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Clarification on something you said.
I just
You
want to
said
say
something
sweet
along-
boy. There we go.
Something along the lines of abortion being the lesser of two evils. Can I take you literally on that? That you think that abortion is evil, but it's more evil to force a woman to do something?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know if I'd
necessarily.
necessarily.
Phrase.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. It doesn't necessarily mean we're sitting there like
evil is subjective.
it's evil.
Right.
Yeah, evil
right.
is
The
a
lesser of
subjective
two
phrase.
evils is a turn of phrase. I don't believe that abortion is evil.
Okay.
I don't particularly like abortion. I don't like the idea of abortion, but I like less the idea of forcing a moral position on somebody else's body, somebody else's life.
Well, what about forcing a moral
Fair enough.
position on you? You
Okay.
don't like that either, right?
No, absolutely not.
No. So then, if society says A is immoral, but you think it's moral, then you're in the right and society is wrong. Is that
Sure. Why not?
really? then you don't have any standard at all, right? There is no. You don't adhere to any moral.
No, I do adhere to standards, just like everybody else in this room has to live in a modern society.
Such as murder. What about murdering somebody for gratuitous pleasure?
I don't murder people. We have to go down this road again.
How many?
Is that wrong?
Hey, Paul.
I don't murder.
Paul.
Yeah.
Paul, how many people have you
I'm just
murdered,
asking
dude?
you, is it wrong?
I don't murder. Yes, I don't.
I didn't
murder
say
people.
you do.
I don't
I
murder
just-
people because I don't want people. I know what it would like. I can imagine what it would be like to have somebody I love murdered.
What about?
I can imagine.
It's
how- in fact, I have-
it's completely irrational to suggest Paul or any atheist would just kill someone because they don't use the Bible as their source of morality.
No, nobody's suggesting that. No, what he's doing is what atheists endlessly and never cease doing. He's attempting to build another straw man out of what I say. Atheists cannot debate somebody without making straw
Hey,
man.
Nephilim, how did the craters on the moon get there?
It's not
So
a
I'm
straw
asking
man.
you-
It's basically
so I'm
extrapolating
asking,
upon
I'm
your
not
position.
asking
Where is
who
your?
are you?
Let me ask you a question.
Wait, see, I'm not
Here's
asking,
a
are
very
you a
logical
murderer?
question.
I'm asking.
Here's
do
a
you
very
think it's
logical
wrong for
question.
someone to kill somebody.
Where
for
is the source of your
gratuitous
morality?
pleasure? Is that wrong, Paul?
Where? Hold on. Let's. Okay, there's too many people
I'm
trying to talk at
asking
once.
him
Hold on.
to-
Let's just
When I'm
refocus
done,
this for a
then
second.
I'll
I want.
talk
No.
Paul, I'm asking.
I'm in charge of this
Yeah,
room. You're not
shut
in
up
charge
for
of
a
this
second.
room.
Yeah.
Don't even try
I
to
don't
fucking
care.
impose
Nephilim,
your
if you want to
fucking
be in the
authority.
debate, then
Hey, if you
have
want
to
to be
listen.
here, then you could fucking abide by my fucking rules.
He's trying to
I-
control the
I-
debate.
Hold on. I'm gonna let me try
He's
to.
trying to
I want to
control
pose
the
a
debate.
question to Nephilim. I want to pose a question to Nephilim. Look, we're gonna stay on the abortion issue, so you'll have a chance to talk all your shit. So hold on. I just want to ask you.
Oof.
Yeah. Okay. I don't care if you give a shit.
Yeah, shut
I just
up.
want to ask you a question. I want to ask you. I want to ask you a question. 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 Can I ask you a fucking question?
Kick him from the room.
Will you answer a fucking
Kick
question?
him from the room.
Will you answer a fucking question, Nephilim Free?
He doesn't want to shut
Will
up.
you answer a question?
Yeah.
Will you answer the
I answered-
question? No, you haven't answered the question because I haven't asked it yet.
Hey, will you shut up for 2
Ask you,
seconds?
Is it wrong to kill somebody for gratuitous?
Yes,
pleasure?
yes, we've already answered that question. It's fucking wrong, you moron. You've already been answered. Listen,
Why?
now here's what I want to know: Where in the Bible is abortion condemned? I want to know what the scriptural basis is for you saying that abortion is
Scriptural
wrong.
basis is that the Bible calls unborn children human beings. It calls them
Where?
children. It even names them.
Where in the
Probably
Bible?
40 or 50 verses. There's one that says 2 nations are in your womb.
Okay.
The
Nations of
Bible
human beings.
also says it's okay to have
there
slavery.
Were two. There were twins. One, they had a tug of war. One was pulling on the other guy's arm, I think, and the other was pulling on the other heel. And God gave them names. They had names, and they were named by God, and they were human beings.
Okay, here's
Because
the
God
flaw
said
in
they
your
had a name.
logic.
A
Here's the
blob of chemistry
yeah.
doesn't have a name because it's not human.
Okay, here's
A
the
human
flaw in your
being
logic.
in
You'll all have to
Rome is
assume
not.
that we just treat the Bible with the same
I gave you 2 examples there.
reference
All right.
There are more.
that you do, and we accept it to be true, which we don't. So that's not really quoting. The
I don't
Bible
even even take that as something
So-
that the Bible used to condemn abortion. It's not
Well,
clear
then
enough.
don't understand the Word of God. Then.
Oh, okay.
Because-
it's just that I just don't understand.
Yeah, you don't understand that a human being is killing a human being is murder, and that's what Genesis says. Thou shalt not kill. It means that you shall not take.
We discussed that earlier, and then there's parts of the Bible where God tells the Israelites to kill people.
There you have it. They're a human being because they're given names. They're given names. You don't name chemical blobs. You name a human being.
God says, "Thou shalt not kill" until He tells you to
You
kill.
don't name
somebody.
amino acids.
Hold
You
on.
don't name chemistry.
Wrong to kill somebody for gratuitous pleasure. Can you tell me why it is, please?
Nephilim free, are you going to continue to filibuster for the next like 2 fucking
no, I
hours?
just want a straight answer. That's all.
I gave you a straight answer. It's fucking wrong to kill a person.
And I said, why? Is it wrong just because, or is it wrong for a reason? Is there anything that is just because?
It's wrong because we live in a society. We've entered in a contract of governance with one another, and we have decided as a society that it is important to us to not impose our will on another person in such a way that would deprive them of life. Shut the fuck up! It would deprive them of You've been asking me for an answer, and I'm giving you your stupid fucking answer.
You didn't have any say so.
We live in a society.
Can you shut up and let him respond? Jesus fucking
And we
Christ.
have decided in this society that we do not deprive another person of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We do not deprive another person of their property. We do not insinuate ourselves into another person's life against their will. We have decided these things
because
as a
people
society
decided what
because
makes it
that's
morally
reality. Society
Because
is
people
a concession
decided.
to reality.
Because people decided that makes it morally correct.
Yeah, Nephilim free. Nephilim free.
Yes.
Let them finish.
Yes.
Nephilim.
That's why a moral. That is the basis of a society. Is people coming together and deciding what's best for the common good. So the answer to your question is yes, because people got together and decided to create a society. It's wrong.
Okay.
And if you don't believe it's wrong, you can go ahead and break the law. Please do.
So, because now, what if you believed that doing A is okay, but society says it's wrong? Then you're wrong, right?
If I believe doing A is okay and society says it's wrong, then I'm wrong. Yes. Yes.
Really?
All right, I wanted to bring something up.
Do you see the
It's called
Nephilim, I wanted to
objective system.
Nephilim, I wanted to bring up Exodus chapters 21 through 21:22 through 21:23. The verse indicates that if a man pushes a pregnant woman and she then miscarries, he is only required to pay a fine. If the fetus were considered a full person, he would be punished more severely, as though he had taken a life. So how would you respond to that?
All right, run that by me again, please, because I'm not sure I understood what you were saying.
Okay, well, basically, in Exodus, it says that if you push a pregnant woman and she miscarries, you only have to pay a fine. So obviously, in that part of the Bible, they do not treat the fetus as though it were equivalent to a human life.
I wouldn't agree that it doesn't.
Okay.
Well, you just don't understand the Word of God.
Okay, so
it's because he has a different exegesis than you.
Firstly, how
I'd like to know
old is an embryo before that will happen? Because, when the baby gets big enough in there, it's not going to just pop out if it dies. It has to be surgically.
It doesn't just pop out anyway, you fucking mongoloid.
Okay,
so is the Bible wrong?
Surgically removed. So anything that is miscarried is, I would say, is pretty underdeveloped when because it could just slip right out.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't. It doesn't. That's not anywhere in the actual verse, but I mean, it's a nice little bit of gymnastics that you did.
The great prophet Nephilim free is interpreting the scripture for us.
It's because this is immoral, and he knows it's immoral, so he just has to jump around the room like a orangutan.
No, there's nothing immoral about it. What's immoral?
The
guys,
Bible is
I don't know if you remember true empiricism from last time.
No way. No fucking way.
Well, he probably heard that. So
no fucking way.
Okay.
I'm already never going to forgive you for bringing this Nephilim free dipshit in.
Hey, I asked you. You guys said okay. I mean,
you don't like
oh man, you're right. Yeah,
you don't like
sowed our own poison on that.
So Nephilim.
Yeah, you're right, man. You're too real for me, Neph. You're too real.
So Nephilim, do you or do you not believe in geocentrism?
I'm undecided.
You're undecided.
You're undecided.
Whether
I
or not
see evidence for heliocentrism, and I see evidence for geocentrism.
What is the evidence
for either of those things?
Scripture is the evidence for heliocentrism, and the fact that if you had I can't remember the name of the machine, but there's little machines you can buy that have little planets on them, and you turn it on, and they all move around in little things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you take one of those things, and if you had one that was made of super sturdy metal so that it wouldn't bend and freak her out when you did this, and you grabbed the Earth and held onto it in place, all the planets and everything would move around the Earth exactly as they already do. Nothing would change. The perspective wouldn't even change. The only thing that would change is everything's going around the Earth now, not the sun. Including the sun would be going around the Earth.
You convinced me, man. You took one of them metal models of the...
I'm just saying that the movement of the planets does not give us an indication that the sun is the center of the universe, solar system.
Okay.
So I think the answer as to whether or not the solar system is heliocentric or geocentric is probably unknown with absolute certainty. But I would say this, the Bible says that God created the earth first, and I believe that, because I believe everything else about the Bible is valid, and I see a ton of evidence that validates the Bible, so I have no reason to doubt anything.
What is your evidence
and
that
so
validates
if the Bible says the earth was created first, I believe that.
Okay,
wearing mixed fibers? Wearing mixed fibers, Neff? Are you?
What about mixed fibers?
Are you wearing them?
What about them?
Leviticus says that you shouldn't wear mixed fibers. Are you wearing mixed fibers? Are you wearing a polyester?
You ever eat lobster?
An elastic waistband in your tidy whities?
Let me explain two things to you. Firstly, I'm not bound by the law. And secondly, those were laws that God gave the Hebrew people to follow to bring them out of the indoctrination of the Canaanites, Hittites, Philistines. He did not state this as a law for all.
So why is it still in the Bible that's supposed to be His everlasting word?
Because it was given to them to do
if it's just
at that time.
If it's just an obscure set of laws that's not even meant to apply anymore, why is it in the book?
It's not obscure.
And why is it used constantly to deny homosexuals, bisexuals,
and what about the Ten Commandments?
Individuals their right to marry?
I've never heard of such a thing.
What about the Ten Commandments? Isn't that part of the Hebrew law? Do you think people should follow those, or are you not bound by those either?
Directly by God, Moses.
Okay.
They stand for eternity. They're statutes.
But how do you know that?
How do you differentiate what's a temporary law from what's an everlasting statute that we're all supposed to obey forever? Like, what's the how do you make that determination?
Scripture states Moses gave us the law.
Didn't Jesus say that he didn't come to overrule the law?
You know, he came to fulfill it. And that's why I said I'm not bound to the law anymore. Because he fulfilled the law in my place. I couldn't do it. He did it for me.
Alrighty then.
Good for you.
Yeah. He couldn't do it.
And if I wear mixed fibers, and if God really does dislike it for some reason, that doesn't take away from my salvation. Because we're all sinners, and God already knew we'd be a sinner. That's why.
Well,
so that means God created sin, right? Because God created us knowing that we would sin.
God created beings that He knew would sin. Yes.
So He created sin.
Because they're less perfect than Him, aren't they?
He created sin.
And His standard is perfection.
So God created sin.
Well, how do you know what God's standard is?
Perfect.
God created sin.
You know what? When it comes down to
indirectly, yes.
Hold on. How did God create something indirectly? I thought He created everything.
In fact, God actually states, "I created evil. I created all these things."
So God is evil.
No,
God created evil.
By fault.
Hold on.
He created something inferior to Himself.
Why? What did He do that for? I mean, like, I thought.
So He could have children.
Okay, so He wanted. Why did He want imperfect children? Like usually if you want children, you want children that.
Children, He would have to reproduce Himself, and He won't share His glory.
Well, TJ, if He created perfect children, He wouldn't have children to torture for all eternity for being imperfect.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You know,
I made you faulty, and then I blame you for your faultiness.
Yes.
See, Paul, isn't that pretty adolescent of you? Since Scripture says God takes no pleasure in the destruction of the wicked.
Oh yeah.
He seems to do it a lot himself, though.
Why did He create wickedness if He took no pleasure in the destruction of the wicked?
Maybe you could grow about 12 years, real quick.
Why would God's pleasure ever even come into it? If He's a perfect being, why would He ever create something that directly displeases Him and causes Him pain?
Yeah.
Why? Why would He ever do that?
That'd be like if you like fucking easy listening and you recorded a metal album for yourself to listen to, and then we're like, God damn this noise!
And then I need to become my own son.
Man, I hate this dubstep that I'm constantly listening to. It's awful. I wish I could just turn it off, but I'm God and I can't.
It's like a bad cartoon sitcom.
What
God has forced us to dubstep to the end of time.
He makes a species that's like, okay, well, I'm gonna make this species want to fucking fuck like crazy, and then I'm gonna tell them only fuck in these circumstances, and then when they fuck outside of those circumstances, I'm gonna be like, you're going to hell. What does that make sense?
I'm not just gonna kill him. I'm gonna burn him for eternity.
Yeah,
roast.
Not even just like, oh, you're faulty, therefore you have to be mercifully destroyed. It's like, oh, you're faulty, so let's go burn in hell.
But,
for all
Paul's
time.
an atheist.
Hold on.
Okay, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, I gotta say something about that, guys. God didn't create sin. I don't know if Neff said that or not. But
Yes,
God
he did.
Not. I repeat, he did not create sin.
Oh,
We have
you
to look
guys
at
need
the
to have a
definition
talk
of
then.
sin, and you'll see that.
Okay. He created the
transgressing God's
definition of
law.
sin. He created the definition of sin, but he didn't create sin.
I think Nephilim Free must read the dictionary all day long because he's very obsessed with definitions.
Yeah. Well,
Not
so
for
is
free or
G-Man,
G-Man.
though.
All right. Can I put out another question?
No, this is me.
Or you guys-
The reason why I use
you guys still want
definitions
to
because
spend
when I
some
talk to
time?
atheists on YouTube, and I'm not saying it's you guys, I'm saying that the other atheists that I talk to on YouTube, they're always getting their definitions wrong. They'll misrepresent the word evolution, what a Christian is, what sin is, and I mean, you guys are kind of doing it now, but
I think you actually have
I
that
understand
supposition flipped around, but okay.
Well, the commandments is transgression against the law, so God would have had to have created it. Now, are we ready for another question?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Throw another one in the fray.
Okay, this one is not a philosophical or theological question. This is actually a question from a user on Skype. They wanted to ask about a comment that was made on Reddit. They are stating that this was said by you. Correct me if I'm wrong if this wasn't actually said by you. It says, yeah, well, you deserved it, so fuck you. I hope it happens again soon. I'm tired of being treated like shit by you mean little cunts and then you using your rape as an excuse. Fuck you. I think we should give the guy who raped you a medal. I hope you fucking drown in rape semen, you ugly, mean-spirited cow. Was this you?
Yeah, that was me.
Why?
Well, I mean, you have to understand that I started a thread on Reddit that there was a subreddit called Shit Reddit Says, and it's probably still there. I wouldn't know. I really don't go to Reddit anymore. But they would go onto people's threads and basically troll people and bully people for any transgression that they felt. If you stepped a toe out of what they felt was politically correct, they would pounce on you. Like, they would take perfectly innocuous jokes and comments and try to make mountains out of molehills. So I basically posted a thread criticizing them, which they then flooded, and I ended up having a 5 or 6 hour flame war with the people of Shit Reddit Says. And, they were basically sitting there calling me every fucking name in existence and being total dicks when I was at first trying to be very civil. But as the conversation went on, it appeared that they were not willing to reciprocate my civility, and so I became increasingly agitated and angry. And those comments are something that I said because I knew that it would be the most offensive possible thing to say to someone with the sensibilities of that group of people. And, if I would have known that those comments would have been taken out of context and used, across the internet and, put in various publications and so on and so forth, as an example of why I'm such a bad person because I said this horrible, horrible thing, obviously I wouldn't have said it. And I'm sorry for anyone that saw that and was maybe hurt by it or felt that it demeaned women or anything like that, because really I was just talking to one specific person that I hated because they were being extremely boorish and hostile towards me, and I definitely went too far, but, who hasn't said something incredibly stupid in a moment of anger?
There was a lot more to the comment that was actually half, but I didn't feel like reading the entire thing on there. I understand there's people out there that are hateful and people get aggravated and say some things they may not mean, but I'm glad that you do understand that there are women out there as well as males, children who've been raped, and something like that could really harm someone on a psychological level in that way. But it's good that you point that out. Anybody else got some questions?
Well, actually, it's something I want to say.
Okay.
But I'm going to end up arguing against the people that invited. Well, not against the Drunken Peasants of PaulsEgo. I heard a couple of things here I don't agree with that I got to say something about, and I want to make sure that this is said. Brett, did you say that God created that God created sin?
Oh, they're turning against each other.
Where you went to the
Okay, sin is transgression against the law. It's iniquity, basically lawlessness. So he created the law, and of course there'd be the consequences behind it that he put forth. Now, the thing that you would want to go with is that there's free will, that people have the choice if they're going to keep the law or break it. You follow?
Well, actually, that theology doesn't work, because if God created sin, then God would actually be unjust if God created sin, he would be unjust for throwing people in the lake of fire, and the atheists would actually have a very
Brett.
good point. I mean, they would have a smoking gun. So no, that's not true. That's not true at all.
They're arguing about the attributes of their imaginary friend now, folks. We're just
I know.
We're kind of
like live on the internet.
No, we're just having a friendly disagreement. That's all.
I want to apologize for the S word that I used a little while ago. Atheists tend to bring out the worst in people sometimes, and
we are a wretched and corrupting bunch.
The evil atheists go.
I like to take this opportunity.
I'd like to say these atheists are responsible for my negative actions. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I like to apologize.
No, I'm guilty of my own sin.
Not that it's saying shit is really all that.
Hold on, G-Man's
big of a deal.
apologizing, man.
Sorry, okay,
this is great.
I'm sorry.
I like to apologize, guys, if you don't mind. Yeah, I like to apologize to Ben, the amazing atheist, and PaulsEgo, because honestly, I usually go by first impressions, and when I talked to you guys the last time, I didn't think you guys had a brain. You know, and I put in the chat here a couple of times. I think I owe you guys an apology. You guys are capable of having you're capable of having an intellectual conversation. So I want to make sure I say this live. Oh, you an apology? I was wrong, and I will make sure I say this publicly on my channel so people know.
You're not G-Man, but thank you.
No, I'm serious. I'm dead serious. I apologize.
Well,
I was
Paul,
wrong.
let me ask you a question. You said if society said that it was right to do a thing, but you say wrong to do a thing, but you say it's right, then you're wrong and society is right. So let me ask you, if society said it's okay to gratuitously murder somebody, but you thought it was wrong.
Are we back to this again?
That would be a failed society.
Is not always right. Society is not always right, which is why we have a mutable political system.
Right,
so that we can change the laws and statutes that we don't deem
so
to be
then you
fit.
admit that there is no moral standard in the law. I would agree.
There's no I don't believe that there is an absolute moral standard. No.
You see the philosophical problem it poses for you, though, right?
No, I don't.
No.
You don't? Well, then I thought more of you than that. Maybe G-Man was right. So you see, that proposes a philosophical problem for you, because if society thinks it's okay for a thing and you disagree, then according to your ideology, you're wrong and they're right.
Right. Society is imperfect. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a perfect standard, which is why we have a constitution that is amendable and mutable, so that we can change as our sensibilities change. We can change the law.
Oh, that's irrelevant. Irrelevant to whether or not it is morally right or wrong to do a thing. Irrelevant.
Hey, Nephilim.
Right, because in your world, everything is black and white. There are no shades of gray in Jesus land.
Well,
everything is black or white.
Why can't you answer for the philosophical problem?
I did fucking answer the philosophical
No, you appealed to the government.
I answered it.
No, you appealed.
You just didn't like the answer. You don't like the answer.
No, Paul, it doesn't address the philosophical question. You're talking about a civil thing, not a philosophical.
It's the same. You're trying to make a differentiation that doesn't actually exist.
No, you're not getting to whether or not it's right or wrong. No,
you're trying to draw a false dichotomy.
The only
and I'm not going to allow you to do
morality is the government of human behavior, and the law is the means by which we do that at present. So to try to separate law.
You guys mind if I say something real quick?
Sure.
Law does not determine their thing is morally correct or incorrect. Laws are based upon people's opinions about whether things are morally correct or correct.
Well, that's the best we can do as a species. There's no better alternative.
It doesn't establish whether or not a thing is morally correct and correct, and that's why I asked that question.
It's subjective. It's subjective. See? It is subjective.
So if society
there is no objective moral standard.
There's call
you say it's wrong according to your
unless
ideas,
you believe in the Sam Harris thing. I guess
society is wrong. So the point is, in one hand, you got society saying it's right to do a thing, you say it's wrong.
He's transformed.
He's auto-tuned.
Then you're wrong. On the other hand, if society says it's a thing and you say it's wrong, then you're still wrong.
Transformers, more than meets the eye.
You have not. It does not address the philosophical question as to whether a thing is considered can be considered morally right or wrong.